What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will lead to real truth. And don't look back to yesterday.
Now there are answers.
Tomorrow's on the
Welcome to Live Prayer.
And welcome to Live Prayer. I'm Bill Keller. Thanks for being with me on this Tuesday night. Pray you had a good day today. It's good to be with you. You know, I got to tell you something. I was just sitting here as we were getting ready to go on the air, and I always have a little word of prayer right before we come up live. And I'm challenged by this format we've got. I've kind of been reflecting a little bit today on the program. You know, again, we started this program back in 2003, and it's really been the same program from day one. Me dealing with, you know, a lot of times it was just one issue a night, and then phone calls. Then we got into more topics. I mean, so it's gone through a lot of metamorphosis, but it's really always been the same program from day one. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm not in the big studio anymore. Maybe it's just because we're in this new world of streaming on platforms only. I just feel a lot more freedom. I really do. I feel a lot more freedom. I guess that's the right word. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the program evolves. One thing I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I have not followed through on, and I apologize, and I'm going to start tonight, is getting into some more phone calls, because we really neglected that part of the program to date, just because, you know, we've been working out a lot of things on the technical side, and we actually had a little problem with the phones, but they're working fine now. At least they were the other day. I guess we may find out tonight, right? But keep praying for the technology. Keep praying for the technical side of this program. I know Facebook is still an issue. We're probably getting 2 nights out of 5 that have no problems. The other 3, we're encouraging our Facebook friends to go to our YouTube platform, or the platform on our website, liveprayer.com, or Twitter, one of our other platforms, because everywhere else it's perfect. And actually our texts have been really good. I think they've got a couple people that they've found that have a good connection with Facebook, and so we're let me tell you something. After nearly 20 years with my main tech, this guy is a genius, and he'll figure it out. We'll get Facebook on, because we really want to push the Facebook thing because it's a great platform. But I got to tell you something, Roku's still our best. I mean, that's where we're getting our strongest viewership. And so for all you Roku people, thank you very much. Good to be with you again. I'm Bill Keller. This is Live Prayer. Of course, we're here live every Monday through Friday, 11 to midnight Eastern Time. I'm the founder of liveprayer.com, the world's largest interactive Christian website. Celebrate our 20th anniversary online this August, and we're excited about really another year. It's amazing, after all these years. Last year turned out to be our most productive ministry year ever. Now, some might say that's because there's that many more needs out there, and that's true. But we've been reaching about the same number. You know, a lot of people come and go from Live Prayer, and our plus minus, which is what we call it as far as numbers, pretty much even out each month as far as how many people drop off, how many new people come on. So it's kind of like a roaring river. We're always dealing with new people all the time. And of course, the bulk, though, the 90% or so of our bulk numbers are just friends that have been with us for quite a bit of time, some of them going back nearly to day one. So God bless all of our dear friends in the Live Prayer family. Let's say a quick word of prayer, and then I want to get tonight going. Father, thank you for tonight. We thank you for this time together, this opportunity. I realize each program is a new opportunity to bring your truth to people, to minister to the needs of people. And I just lift up all of our friends out there tonight, Lord, and pray that you will be with them in a special way, that you will meet their needs, and you'll guide them and direct them each day on their journey. We commit this time to you now. I pray that you use it for your glory, and most of all, that lives are impacted tonight. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. You know, over the years, I've done a lot of public appearances, and that has really gone way down since we started live prayer 20 years ago. Although even in the first probably 10 years of live prayer, it's still getting out somewhat, but of course with the TV program and everything. And I tell people, I say, listen, I'm only one person. I've only got so many hours in the day. And, you know, one of the things that equalizes all men. Think about this one first. You want something heavy? I know I'm coming around out of the box with something heavy tonight, but listen to me carefully. This is good. The great equalizer amongst men in terms of raw power isn't what political office you may hold, isn't the size of your bank account. As a matter of fact, I always talk about death being a great equalizer, and it really is. Because when you take that last breath, if Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the world, if he died, let's just say in 5 minutes from now, Bill Gates dies, right? 5 minutes from now, you've got somebody in Nebraska living in just a little one-room apartment. He dies in 5 minutes. Now, both Bill Gates and that unknown man from Nebraska are going to stand before God. And at that minute, God isn't going to care that Bill Gates is the founder of Microsoft, one of the creators of this great technology we know of as the internet. He's not going to care about the billions and billions of dollars he has had in this life. He's not going to care about all of the things of this world regarding Bill Gates. Subsequently, when that man from Nebraska dies, God isn't going to be concerned that nobody really knew his name other than maybe a very close circle of people in his life. He certainly didn't have any amounts of massive wealth. But the moment they die, they will both stand equal before God. And at that moment, the only thing that's going to matter is, do you know Jesus? Because if Bill Gates, and everything I've read, and only God knows his heart, but everything I've read, he has rejected a faith in Jesus as the only way to be saved. That may have changed very recently, I don't know. But I pray it does. But if it hasn't changed, and he does take that last breath without Christ in his heart, God's not going to be impressed by Bill Gates. He's only going to, as a matter of fact, God is going to be offended by Bill Gates because all he's going to see is his sin. And it's his sin that's going to cast Bill Gates into everlasting darkness for all eternity. Likewise, that man from Nebraska who had nothing in this life, no fame, no fortune, but he knew God. He had a personal relationship with Jesus. My Bible says there's a mansion waiting for that man. A mansion. Imagine that. From a one-room, dilapidated, maybe a little apartment in Nebraska to a mansion in heaven. That's good stuff. But you see, that's why I say death is the great equalizer. Because we all come to God at that moment with nothing. God doesn't care. Who was it? Carol Channing. Hello, Dolly. Broadway will actually give her a tribute that they only that they only give to just a very small number of great Broadway actors and actresses. Tomorrow night, Broadway will go dark in honor of Carol Channing. I heard today somewhere she did like 6,000 live performances of Hello Dolly. You know, the second she took her last breath, I believe is like, God didn't care that she was the star of a great Broadway musical, Hello Dolly. God didn't care about the people she may have known throughout her life. God wasn't impressed with any of that. And I have no clue where Carol Channing was in relationship to faith. But that's the only thing God's going to see when we die. That's why I put such an emphasis in everything we do on that very fact. Well, another great equalizer actually occurs while we're living this life. Now, I love the show. I wasn't even going to go here. This is good, though. Another great equalizer happens actually during our life. And once again, it's an equalizer because you don't need billions of dollars. You can have nothing. You don't need to be famous. Your name could be known by nobody. Yeah, think about this with me just for a second, because this is big stuff. Think about this. Every person that's alive has the same opportunity to talk to the God that created them. This is not a shaming session for people that need to pray more, because the fact is we all need to pray more. But what it is a reminder that when you turn on TV and you see somebody that's got all this incredible money, or somebody that's got all these beautiful homes, or somebody that's got this or that, somebody that's got this name recognition all over the world, and maybe you're just, plugging through life. You're not really famous and known to many people other than your close circle of family and friends. Maybe you haven't amounted much financial resources in your life as of yet. But the fact is, whether you're rich or dead broke, whether you're famous or known by nobody, for every 24 hours we get from God, number one, that's a gift. And you get the same 24 hours. Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, founder of Amazon, you get the same 20. If you live through tomorrow and make it through the day, and Jeff Bezos lives tomorrow and makes it through the day, you both had the same amount of time. He didn't get any more time. You didn't get any less time. All his money didn't mean he got more time each day. No, you get the same amount of time. But here's something else, and this is even just as powerful. Even without his money or his fame or his notoriety or the power that comes with all that he has in his life, you have the same opportunity to talk to the God who created you, communicate with God himself that he does. And I got to tell you something. That is some powerful stuff. Now, I know you may be sitting there trying to figure out how you're going to pay your car payment on Friday, or it's the 15th, or you're 2 weeks late on your mortgage or something, or your job's getting ready to end, or you got some health issues, or maybe you got some relationships. So you got a lot of things going on in your life right now. But see, don't be distracted. Don't ever forget. And this is why I always encourage people to start that day waking up their spiritual man before they start waking up their physical man. So my feet never hit the bed in the morning until I prayed a little bit and read a little bit of the Bible. Because I know sometimes once my feet hit the bed, my mind starts racing. I start, tapping out notes on my notepad on my phone, and got this coming down today and this happening today, and you know how it goes. We all get so busy. But prayer, the point is, any minute of any day, you can just stop whatever you're doing. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to get on a plane. You can just stop wherever you're at and tap into the greatest resource of mankind, communication with God. And that's some good stuff. I didn't on any of my notes. I wasn't planning on going here tonight. Just good stuff. All right. I do have some things to talk to you about. If you've been following any news at all, obviously you know the UK is blowing up right now. The Parliament has voted overwhelmingly not to accept the deal that May made with the European Union as far as the exit deal. European Union is refusing to negotiate any further. In other words, they're putting the pressure on Britain really to stay in the EU. That's their ultimate goal. But at the end of March, they may be leaving the EU, because they're leaving. They may be leaving the EU with no plan in place. And then you're going to see absolute utter chaos, because that means all their current trade situations technically end. They're going to have to deal with a currency issue. I'm sure the euro will still, be a base economic platform for a while, but technically, if they're exiting the EU, they're going to want to go back and deal with their own currency, the British pound. You've just got an incredible, you've got the whole borders issue and the whole flow of people in and out of Great Britain. You're talking mammoth logistics. And that's why there was a 2-year extrication process from the time of the vote. Well, guess what? The 2 years has come and gone, and there is no process. There's supposed to be a vote of confidence in the Parliament, I believe, tomorrow, which would be our nighttime now. There's about 6 hours ahead of us, so it's about 6 in the morning. So I believe sometime today, or in the middle of the night here, their day. Now, there's speculation she's going to survive that, but there's also a lot of speculation she may just resign. So you've got a real political quagmire right now in Europe. You've got an incredible void of real leadership. You've got an absolute void of direction. You've got a monster in the EU that doesn't want to let their prey go. And you've got the commoners that voted to leave, and they want to leave, and there's going to be uprisings in the UK. I put as an overlay on all of that chaos and commotion and upheaval and indecision and uncertainty. I put as an overlay on that a faithless society, a faithless culture. Normally, in a situation like that, you'd have people going to church on their knees praying. I'm sure some of that's going on. God's always got a remnant. Never doubt that. There's always a remnant. But this should be a time of national prayer and fasting in the UK. Seriously. But there's nobody that's got the authority to call that other than the Queen. And believe it or not, she's a godly enough woman. She may call for something like that. But you've got a population that's disconnected from that kind of thinking. They're in the same place we are, only they're even worse in terms of their furtherance from God. So you've got a real problem over there that's not going to get better anytime soon. It's only going to get worse. And the absolute worst part of that is there's no spiritual leadership of any magnitude that could even remotely try to hold that country together, because even those who may be plugged in and spiritually mature enough, the masses aren't connected. Oh, and on top of that, I forgot to even write this down. I just read this in passing the other day. I meant to write it down. I didn't. I was going to talk about it last night, but there was too much going on. I forgot to write it down today, but it's in my mind. You've got one of the heads of the Church of England, which is, I guess, their church emissary to the Vatican. Okay, so it's kind of like it's the Church of England's ambassador to the Vatican, their emissary to the Vatican, the person that's going to go to the Vatican and lobby on behalf of the church. You've got this high-level Church of England clergy member going to the Vatican to represent the Church of England that's questioning the literal physical resurrection of Jesus Christ. You want to know? Do you want to know why England is a faithless country? The official national church, the Church of England, you've got a high-ranking priest of the Church of England who's actually their ambassador to the Vatican, questioning whether there even was a literal physical resurrection of Jesus Christ. For those of you who watched this program before, and I hope you'll be with us during the Easter season. I always enjoy the Easter season on the program. I always take one of those programs during the Easter season to spend the entire time, that program, to talk about probably my favorite theological subject of all, and that's the resurrection. I'll tell you why. When I was going through my theological studies at Liberty, I took a course on the resurrection that was taught by Professor Dr. Gary Habermas. And he's probably one of the leading theologians, scholars, experts on the resurrection. Now you got to understand something. I took this course probably a good 2.5 years into my theological studies. I was obviously committed, had surrendered my life to the Lord. I was committed to spending the rest of whatever time on this earth God blessed me with to serving Him. And so I was all in. I was all in. No doubt about it. But I'll never forget the day I was really all in. Now, this wasn't some kind of a new birth, a new salvation. I mean, I was saved. I was going to heaven. I was probably 3/4 of the way through my theological studies. I knew I wanted to preach the gospel for the rest of my life. Didn't know how all that was going to work, but I figured God will figure that out. So, I mean, I was in, okay? I was all in. But I'll never forget the day I was really all in. And I was in the process of going through this course on the resurrection. And as I studied through that topic, and as I became convinced through not just the biblical accounts, but also the historical accounts, and all of the various arguments to confirm that Jesus Christ really did physically rise from the dead, just as he said he would, just as the Bible said he did. I'll never forget one night as I was studying, and it was driven home in my heart. It was one of those, you know that 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 this is something that I would literally give my life for. You know it to that point. It was during the study of the resurrection. I'm not going to get into that whole teaching. If you watch my program before, especially around Easter time, you may have heard it. I've written about it in my devotionals. Oh, don't forget on liveprayer.com, our website, if you don't get my daily devotional, go there, click on the resource tab. There's a devotional, click through. It has all the devotionals there. There's an archive that's searchable by topic, keyword, date, and a sign-up link, so you can get them in your email every morning, as a little over 2.5 million folks all over the world do every day. So, I've written about this, obviously, in my devotionals numerous times over these 20 years. And so I'm not going to spend the time right now, because I didn't even know I was going to play this whole program so far. I haven't talked about one thing I was supposed to talk about yet, and we're halfway through the program. But that's all right. I must have been prophetic tonight, talking about how I like this freedom, right? That's about as free as you get when you're going through the program. You haven't even talked about what you need to talk about yet. But the one of many reasons why the resurrection really, really did happen exactly as history pronounces it, as the Bible pronounces, and there's dozens of proofs for it. But one of the strongest proofs is this whole understanding that men will live for a lie, but men won't die for a lie. This turned to be a pretty heavy program. My goodness. Oof. Think about that for a second. Think about that one second. Men will live for a lie, but men won't die for a lie. And if in fact the resurrection was just a concocted hoax, I certainly wouldn't be talking to you right now. You wouldn't be watching me, because this whole thing we know as Christianity would have long ago been wiped out, okay? And think about what happened to those who were the closest to Jesus, those who he walked with and lived with him and saw him teach and work miracles and all of this. Those that he appeared to after his crucifixion and after his resurrection. Think about just those people for a second. Around Eastern time, I'll do not really a teaching, but just give you a summary of where each one of those men, like Matthew and Mark and Bartholomew, all the disciples of Jesus. It's incredible when you read about their lives after the resurrection, because don't forget what happened on the night that he was betrayed, after the good supper, after what we know as today as the Lord's Supper, after the Last Supper, when they were in the Garden of Gethsemane, and they just had a big meal, and they were all kind of sacked out there. And Jesus criticized them. He said, can't you just stay awake and pray with me for a little bit? But think what happened then. Judas betrayed him. The Romans came and took him. And everybody did what? They ran for their lives, didn't they? They ran for their lives. And the only one who really didn't run for his life, he probably would have been better if he did, because Peter didn't run. He kind of hung around so he could be the fulfillment of Christ's prophecy, as he denied even knowing him 3 times that night. Yet, think about this with me for a second. Yet, think about this. Those very same men who ran for their lives, just a few days later, became emboldened, brave warriors for Christ for the rest of their lives. After they saw the risen Christ, they, at that point in their life, knew to the point they were willing to die for their faith. And die they did. Other than John, who was banished to Patmos for a bunch of years. Of course, that's where he wrote Revelation. And he was the only one that history has shown to have died a quote-unquote normal death. All the others, burned at the stake, beheaded, some of them crucified. Peter, of course, famously refused to be crucified as Christ was crucified, and asked his executioners to crucify him upside down, which they did. Men will live for a lie. Men don't die for a lie. And again, I only mention that because during that study of the resurrection, I came to the place that I not only was willing to live the rest of my life to serve God, I was willing to not only live the rest of my life, but give my life to serve God. I mean, literally lay down my life, if need be, to serve God. Because there was no doubt anymore. Whatever little doubt there may have been, it was gone. And it's that faith that sustained me for these last 25 years, to be blunt with you. It's that faith I draw on every day, just to not only serve him to the best of my ability, but just walk through all the various challenges there are every day. So, yeah, but the Great Britain's in a lot of, and you know, so much of our Christian heritage comes out of that great country. So pray for the people of Britain tonight, because things are going to get really ugly there very quickly, because things are literally just falling apart as we speak. Saw a story today that just reinforces, what I tell you pretty much nightly about the last few generations not having any faith foundation. And it was a story about the incredible leakage, I believe was the word they use. I don't know if I'd use that word, leakage, but it's the number of young adults that are leaving the church in droves. But think about it. If you, like me, grew up in a home where my parents were Christians, church was some of my earliest memories in life. I was in church every Sunday as a kid, Sunday school, all the events, choir, the whole 9 yards, like I'm sure some of you were. Think with me for a second, if you didn't have that foundation in your life, if you didn't have that experience, if you didn't have that that type of parenting to see, to witness in your life on a daily. I mean, church wasn't it's not like I could wake up on Sunday morning, I really don't feel like going. Feel like it. It wasn't, there were no options. You went to church. That's just what you did. It wasn't even a question. Certainly wasn't an option. But, when you have that kind of, when you grow up in that kind of an environment, but think about this for a second. If you didn't have that, your parents weren't Christian, you didn't go to church as a kid. How do you all of a sudden just start doing that at 20, 30, 40, whatever? You see what I'm saying? So this isn't surprising to me, because a lot of these kids that are dropping out of church, you've got the situation now, amazingly, you've got a reverse situation. A lot of these churches do some great outreach to the youth. And they're getting kids in non-church homes to come to church. And in a lot of cases, the churches, the kids end up bringing their parents to church. How about that for a role reversal? But the point being is, as years go on and less kids are going to church and less kids are in church, because they didn't have that type of a witness when they were growing up. So they don't know any better. Now they grow up outside of church and they start having kids. Of course, those kids aren't going to go to church. You see the problem? And we're seeing right before our very eyes. If I'm going to be 61 in a few weeks. If you're in my age category or older, we've watched the masses, the populace move from a majority that had a foundation of faith, at least in their life, and we've literally watched as the years have gone by and the generations dying off, till we've got a generation now that, it's what I tell you all the time. 30 kids in my elementary school, every one of them went to church. And again, it wasn't an option, wasn't an issue. That's just what you did. Take 30 kids out of an elementary school class today, depending on where it is. If you get 5 going to church, that would be amazing to me. I think it's probably more like you might find 2. Yeah, I'm sure you'll find a lot of classes where it's 0. So lots of prayer needed there as well. One thing I forgot when we went through this whole thing about the assault on men, and I talked to you last night about that Gillette ad that's getting ripped because they're trying to tap into this whole culture of toxic masculinity, and they're using their razor ads to, men need to shave off all that facial hair so they become nice, mild, meek men, not toxic masculinity, aggressive men with beards. And to the life of me, because actually it made me start thinking. Actually, yesterday when I was working on the show last night, knew I was going to deal with it. I started just thinking my own life. Probably some of the men I know that would probably be more in that toxic masculinity, most of them had no facial hair, and probably some of the most gentle, nicest, kindest men had the beards. So I'm just saying, it made me start thinking, well, it's a totally bogus stereotype, and of course all they're trying to do is sell razor blades, but they're tapping into a cultural issue right now to do it. And I don't see much pushback. I know I saw a couple programs on, who was that, on Fox, that Tucker Carlson. I guess he's had a couple programs on this. But for the most part, I guess what you would call your mainstream media, they're pushing this bogus, toxic masculinity nonsense down the throats of people. And it's funny because on an issue like this, whenever there's pushback, they just double down harder. I watched this through the whole time that they were trying to mainstream homosexuality in this country, make it culturally acceptable, part of our mainstream life without even questioning it anymore. There came a point when they were starting to really gain steam and make headway, when they were challenged. I mean, they just bulldozed right over each other. They didn't back up. They didn't slow down. They didn't back down. Matter of fact, they double, triple, quadrupled down and just bulldozed right through. Well, that's what's happening with this whole bogus concept. And again, over the years, as I told you tonight, I mean, I've talked quite a bit about roles of men and women because it is a huge reason why we have the breakdown of the family, which is the foundational structure of our culture. And in trying to understand the breakdown of the family, of course, the breakdown of the family, that began in earnest with the burgeoning divorce rates that we started to see in the 70s, 80s, definitely 90s, 2000. I mean, sadly, most people treat marriage now like just a long legal date. Jump in, jump out, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So the point being is the family unit is being decimated. A huge cause of that is the decimation of marriage. And a huge reason for that, of course, is the foundation so many people get married on, which has nothing to do with Christ or faith, of a shared faith. And a contributor to a lot of that has to do with the removal, really, of the God-given roles men and women are given in the Bible to play. And the feminist movement, again, started out with some very legitimate issues of inequality, fairness, but once they started addressing those, then they became very radicalized, and to this whole point of, you don't need a man, you can have kids without men. I remember writing, I can't even remember when this was, had to be, because I wrote a devotional on it, so it had to be in the last 20 years, but it's probably somewhere around the 2004 or 5, I guess. Friends was one of the big shows on TV, and whoever the Jennifer Aniston character, I remember writing a devotional once on glorify, the name of the devotion, you can go find it, my devotionals. I think the name of it was Glorifying Having a Baby Out of Wedlock. And this was a whole byproduct of that radical feminization of women. Just, now all of a sudden they're having kids. They don't even want they don't want a husband. They don't need a man. I mean, they can get artificially inseminated. They don't even have to have sex to have a kid. Certainly don't need a man to raise a kid. I mean, that became a real cultural phenomenon in the radicalization of the whole feminist movement. But it's just been really, I don't even want to say 5 years, because see the man has always been attacked and marginalized because they saw that as their ability to, then lift up the women by, chopping the man down. You lift up the women, which is the whole thing is predicated on total lies and nonsense. But it's probably just really been within the last 2 years that whatever the most radical strains of feminism were, this whole assault on males really just is even outside the bounds of that. This is kind of an isolated, just focused attack on destroying men. And what a man is, what his role is, and the whole nature of men. And these words like, toxic masculinity. I mean, this stuff is right out of the pits of hell itself. And of course, they try to, they try to merge some of these things like and you know what, okay, this whole just all-out assault on males really became a byproduct of the whole Me Too thing that's a couple years old now. And as people were starting to see the horrific behavior of so many men that maybe they admired, like a Roger Ailes, like an O'Reilly, a Matt Lauer, of course, Harvey Weinstein. Of course, you got this Kevin Spacey guy. I mean, just some horrific stuff. So a lot of very legitimate, high-profile men were being outed as just being beasts. And from that, there came this just off-the-wall demonization of men, period. And listen, you're always going to have men and women who behave in just horrific ways, but you can't castigate an entire gender because some high-profile people in the entertainment world happen to act like just animals. You can't castigate an entire generation. I've been very interested in the duplicity and the hypocrisy of people who I guess technically you would call politically left-leaning. And it's around this whole issue of science. And this has really amused me because in their efforts to promote this whole bogus notion of climate change. And again, we've talked about this issue just because it is such a large cultural issue. We've talked about this issue, and the reason it's bogus is because the whole climate change mythology really was born out of some computer models which were bogus. So, I mean, again, science not being a very good subject of mine, readily admit that. But I know this, I know if you start with an incorrect premise, nothing that you end up with can be right, unless you're just accidentally right. It's the whole issue with the carbon dating. And I'm not going to get into it tonight, but, people talk about the earth being, 20 billion years old. And, we just found a bone of a man. He must be 50 million years old. And then when somebody like me gets on here and talks about human history being 6,000 years old, people look at me like, I've got 5 heads. I mean, what kind of a moron are you? They just found a bone of a man 20 million years old. What are you talking about 6,000? I mean, yeah, you're my... But see, here you go. And I'll explain it very quickly, very briefly, because it's not a hard explanation. And it's the same problem you've got with the whole climate change models. The initial models, if they are wrong, then any data you get from those models downstream, they're going to be wrong too. Well, with carbon dating, here's the problem. If you believe, and this is where you either believe God or you don't. If you believe God and the earth was created in 6 literal days, and all in all, human history is about 6,000 years old. Now, the problem with the whole carbon dating model is they have no legitimate starting point. Here's what I'm saying. When God spoke the earth into existence, okay, it was spoken into existence in a mature state. Now, if you don't know that exact age, that exact mature age, when God spoke there, then anything that you come up with is going to be incorrect because you don't have a correct starting point. Even easier to understand. How'd God create Adam? Spoke him into existence, breathed life into him, right? But Adam wasn't a little baby when he was born, was he? No. He was a mature male. Now here's your problem. Unless you know the exact mature age of Adam at the time God spoke him into existence, you have absolutely no way at all of even remotely guessing how old Adam is. I mean, hypothetically, let's just say he lived 20 years and then he died. Well, you can't say Adam was 20 years old because he was spoken into existence by God at a mature age. Now, hypothetically, let's just say Adam was 50 and you knew that when God created Adam, Adam had a mature age of 50. He died 20 years later. Well, now you can properly claim that Adam was 70 years old when he died. But without knowing that exact mature age as a starting point, even if you're able to track how many years he may have lived after that, you can never know his exact age. So that's why I say that climate change is bogus. It's not really as much out of a political ideology as it is just common sense. Because again, the whole premise of climate change is based on some computer models that are totally bogus. So people who ideologically lean left politically use climate change and try to beat down people who disagree with them on that topic as science deniers. In other words, they like to make these claims that, well, it's settled science. All scientists agree that climate change is real. And that's just not true. That's just not true. Now, all the scientists they listen to may say that, but I certainly have heard a lot of scientists with all the proper credentials state very unequivocally that it's a bogus claim. Now, are things happening? Of course, but things have been happening since day one. But in order to ride roughshod, to intimidate people who disagree with them on this issue, they like to label them as science deniers. All right. So, people who believe climate change believe in science. Well, answer this question for me then. If people who believe in climate change are great supporters of science, and again, not my best subject, how can these same people that are such lovers and supporters of science try to make these warped, around the mulberry bush statements to try to justify a man who thinks he's a woman or a woman who thinks he's a man? Because these same people who claim to love science utterly reject science, because science says you've got two genders, male and female. And if you were born a male, that means you're a male. If you're born a female, that means you're a female. Being born a male doesn't mean you get to choose if you want to be a girl instead. God already made that choice for you, my friend. Sorry. If you're born a girl, hate to break it to you, you can't be a boy. As much as you may try and change your name and have surgery and all that, you're always going to be a girl. I mean, that's kind of, to me, science. I mean, these great lovers of science get into all this climate change and the earth heating up 1 degree every 5 centimeters. They got all these. I mean, I think being born as either a boy or a girl, I think that's pretty, not only settled science, but that's kind of like basic science, if you ask me, right? And then you've got the other great issue that these people who claim to love science are such hypocrites on. And that's abortion. Because in their world, they justify killing innocent babies because in their world, they're not really innocent babies. They're just clumps of cells and blah, 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 blah. Well, either you love science or you don't, because last I checked, the second that first cell comes to be, that is that incredible spark that can only come from God himself, called life. And again, Science 101, that cell's alive. That means it's living. And I love the technology, the ultrasound technology. I mean, they're getting this stuff down now to, my goodness, it's scary. It's like HD quality. I mean, I've seen some stuff after 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I mean, to even look at that human in that very early form, where you really can't even make out a lot of the body details, but you know it's a living thing. And if you kill it, if you make it not live anymore, that's called killing, murder. And these are the same people that are worried about a bunch of chickens in a chicken coop that are going to be on the McDonald's menu tomorrow, or a bunch of cows that are going to be shipped off somewhere for Burger King. I mean, they're all, but yet when you're talking about a live human being, undeniably living human being, all of a sudden, all their love of science just goes away. All right, we're done. Good show, man. You know, this whole program, thank you, Jesus. I give you all honor and glory. This is good stuff tonight. If you're watching tonight, you never made a decision for Christ, I want to give you that chance right now. Bible says that one day we will all take our last breath, make that last little gasp of breath in this life, and then we will be off into eternity. Where you spend that eternity is dependent upon one thing, whether you know Jesus or not. Because, my friend, whether you like it or not, whether you admit it or not, if you're honest, you have to. We're all sinners. But God sent his son Jesus to die for our sins. That's why faith in Jesus, Jesus alone, can save you. And if you want to make that decision tonight, to have Jesus save you tonight, pray with me. Will you? Dear Lord, I come to you tonight as a sinner, asking you to forgive me of my sins, believe in my heart and confess with my mouth that Jesus is my Lord and is my Savior. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. Take my life now and forevermore. From this day forward, I will live for you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. My email address is on the screen, bkellerliveprayer.com. If you made that commitment, got a book for you. I'll send it to you. It won't cost you anything. I'll pay for it, pay the postage. Just drop me an email. Let me know you made that commitment tonight, okay? Also, you need prayer for anything, just drop me an email. I'll be happy to pray with you and pray for you and believe God with you for all your needs, okay? Love and care about you so much. Have a great day tomorrow. Pray it's a blessed day, that everything goes well. No upheavals, no inconvenience, just a very smooth day. And I'll see you back here in 23 hours. God bless you.
What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel